Now that you're aware of our safety measures for engaging with analog processes, we can start to go through the workflow of processing our film. There are a few different steps to processing film. 1, load your film into your tank. 2, process your film using chemistry. 3, dry your film in the film dryer. 4, clean up your processing space. And 5, cut and sleeve your film. We're going to start with loading our film. This step needs to be done in the complete darkness, so you'll be using our film developing booths. I'm going to demonstrate the process today with an already processed roll of film in the light to give you an idea of what you'll do in the complete darkness. To get started, we need the following: our processing tank, our film spool, our inner funnel, our top funnel, and our lid. Our roll of film, and a pair of scissors. Tick off that you have absolutely every one of these things before you enter the film loading booth and open your film. If you realise you've forgotten something halfway through, it can result in your film being exposed and eventually ruined. I'll normally lay out my bits in a particular order to make sure that they're all there, and so that when I turn off the lights, I know where everything is. For me, I go from the left, tank, top funnel, inner funnel, roll of film, spool, lid, scissors. Pay particular attention to the way that you lay your spool down. Your spool will have 2 little ridges and then 2 little ball bearings. Make sure you have the ridges closest to you and the ball bearings further away. Lay it down to the left. That means that when you pick it up with your right hand, it'll be in the right orientation. Now that I've checked them all off, I can turn off the lights and start loading my film. The next steps, just to remind you, are done in the complete darkness. Make sure you take any things like watches or phones that make light off. So pop the top off your film, or alternatively, you can just split it open. Next thing you're going to do is grab your film, pull it out, and try to handle it along the edges, avoiding the inner bit because you can leave fingerprints. Next, you want to pick up your film spool. You then want to grab your film, run it along underneath those ridges, and past those ball bearings. What those ball bearings do is they actually hold on to these little film sprockets to pull on your film when you wind. Next, we're going to slowly twist. And you can see that this is slowly feeding my film on. I'm going to pull out the rest of my film, feed it on again, pull it out. When I get to the end here, and I can see that that's now, I'll feel, because I won't be able to see because it'll be the dark, that I'm at the end of my roll of film. I'm going to take my scissors and very carefully, because we're in the complete darkness, just snip off the rest of that tank. We're then going to feed that on, so it's fit nice and snug. We're then going to feel around for our inner funnel. We're going to grab that, pop it into the middle of our spool like so. We're then going to pop that into our tank, then take our top funnel, pop that on top, twist it to the right until you hear it click, and then give it a little jiggle and just make sure it's securely tightened in there. Next, grab your lid, pop that on top, make sure it's securely fastened. Then you're ready to take your tank and any rubbish as well as your scissors out to the light and pop it in the bin. Now that I've loaded my film securely in my tank, I'm ready to go process. Now that we've got our film loaded, we can move on to step 2, which is processing our film with chemistry. Our first step here is to measure out our required chemistry. For these small tanks, we need 600 ml of volume. Use the provided jugs to measure out your chemistry. Make sure you use the right jug for the right chemical. All of the chemicals are used undiluted, except for the developer. I'm now going to measure out 600 ml of my stop bath, fixer and hyperclear. The only chemical we don't use straight is the developer. For this, we want to dilute it 1:1 with water. I'm therefore going to start by measuring out 300 ml of straight developer. Before I dilute it, I'm going to measure the temperature of the dev. The length of time that we need to develop our film for is dependent on the temperature of our developer solution and the type of film stock that we're working with. The warmer the solution, the quicker the film will develop, so the less time we'll need. Our optimal developing temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. I therefore want to start by measuring out my straight developer, measuring that temperature, and then diluting it with warmer or cooler water to make that diluted solution 20 degrees Celsius. If you're a few degrees on either side of this optimal temperature, you can use the developing chart to work out your correct length of developing time. Your dev chart will also tell you the developing time based on your film stock. Make sure you refer to this to determine the correct developing time for your film stock and temperature combination. Also make sure that if you're developing more than one roll at a time, that it's the same film stock or that it has the same developing time. Once that you've measured your chemistry and your developer is sitting at 20 degrees or thereabouts, you're ready to start processing. We'll follow this workflow when processing. You don't need to memorize these steps. The chart will also be pinned up nearby the sink for your reference. Following this workflow, our first step is to pre-wet. For this, remove your lid, making double sure that that top funnel is securely fastened. You're then going to pop the tap hose directly into your inner funnel and turn on the cold water tap. This is going to allow cold water to run into the tank and up the sides, flushing the film. We want to rinse for 1 minute. Once rinsed, gently tip your tank upside down and decant the remaining water. Next, pour in your developer solution and pop on your lid securely. Start your timer and gently agitate for the first 30 seconds constantly. Agitating involves gently inverting the tank back and forth. Make sure you do this directly over the sink so that any escaping chemistry is caught in the sink. Once you're done agitating for that first 30 seconds, gently tap the tank on the base of the sink to remove any air bubbles. Then let it rest for 25 seconds with no agitation. After this 25 seconds has elapsed, agitate for 5 seconds. This is what we call intermittent agitation, and we do it for the duration of our development time. Once this time has elapsed, we're going to dispose of the exhausted developer. As outlined in the safety induction, this waste goes into our red funnel waste drums. Open your developing tank lid and pour out the waste, gently holding onto the top funnel in case it's not secure. Next, pour in your stop bath. Agitate constantly for the required time and then recycle the chemistry back into the drum by pouring it into the reused funnel. Next, pour in your fixer and agitate constantly for the required time. Keep in mind that if you're using Kodak T-Max film, your fixing time is longer than other films. Once you're done with your fixer, you then rinse under the tap exactly as you did for your pre-wet. Pop the tank under and let the water flow up the sides of the tank and out. Do this for 1 minute. Pour out the remaining water and then begin your hyper clearing step. Pouring in, agitating for a minute and recycling. After this, rinse for another 10 minutes. Once you put your tank on for this long rinse, you can turn the film dryer on to warm up. Now take some time to rinse your used jugs with hot water and pop upside down to dry. Once your 10-minute rinse is done, your film is ready to see the light. So we can twist off our top funnel, pull our spool of film out and gently pull the film out, handling it only by the edges. Take it quickly to the film dryer and peg up using the provided pegs. Keep the film dryer door closed at all times apart from when you're popping your film in and out. If you leave it open, it lets dust in, which will stick to your film and become a complete mess. Allow to dry in the film dryer for 20 to 30 minutes or until all the watermarks on your film are gone. Once your film is dry, take it to the light box, gently handling along the edges, cut it into strips of 5 or 6 frames to fit neatly in your negative sheet. This protects your film until you're ready to scan or enlarge your images in the darkroom. Finally, rinse all your jugs, tanks and spools and leave to dry. Wipe down the sink and make sure any water or chemical spills are thoroughly cleaned up and the space is left neat and tidy for the next photographer. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed processing your film.